let me share some proof with you that Tesla stock will 10x. This chart shows something that you would think you would be able to predict. You see, some things are quite easy to predict. For example, I predict that next week, Stephen Mark Wright in one of his videos will accuse someone of brain damage yet again. That is something easy to predict. Now, something that would be quite a bit harder to predict would be, will next week in one of my videos, in the beginning of a video, will have at least a single video where I do not start it by not bouncing on mature. That would be quite difficult. This week, there was one instance, but will it happen next week? I don't know, and probably neither do you, which makes it harder to predict. However, AI models are quite easy in a way that they will definitely keep improving, as we can see from this simple chart. And at the first glance, when you would look at this chart, it would appear, just growing linear in a linear fashion, no big deal about it. And then you look at the left here and you realize, oh, wow, this is actually a logarithmic chart. So if you put it as a regular chart, it becomes a lot more impressive, because these first three, it almost looks like they are, at least the first two definitely, look like they are just zeros. And we just care about full self-driving, because if that happens, I deeply believe Tesla stock will at least minimum 10x. And with many models, there's sort of a tipping point where when you get more data, your results don't really improve. How much they do improve a little bit, but not that much. However, with full self-driving, it is a problem where we don't want to get the answer right just 1 out of, let's say, 9 times. We would like full self-driving to drive correctly basically every single day with no accidents almost at all, ever. At least if I use full self-driving, I don't want my car to get into a car accident, not even once in my lifetime, ideally. Now, when you compare our brains and the number of parameters that we already have in our model, for example, GPT-4 is 100 trillion parameters. And researchers estimate that the human brain contains an average of 86 billion neurons and 100 trillion synapses. So how many do we actually need, for example, to solve full self-driving? And how many more can we have? Of course, for our brains to evolve, that took millions of years, but our deep learning models are only a few decades old. So what's going on? And also, how expensive is this to do? So remember, we were talking about 100 trillion parameters. Now, 530 billion, which is so much less than 100 trillion. Anyone looking to replicate this experiment would have to spend close to $100 million. Would you like fries with that? Well, my answer would be no. I would like full self-driving with that. Thank you very much. And this article will be linked down below, by the way. It's a great read. Another advantage that Tesla has over its competition, for example, the cars that Waymo and Cruise use, there's also basically a server in the back of your car which is noisy and it produces a lot of heat, and Tesla is able to do all of the full self-driving that it's capable to do already with just one simple computer that is pretty cheap, that doesn't cost tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars for each car. And they're making a new version of it and releasing it next year, so things can only get better, I would imagine. I think it is pretty safe to assume that Tesla has been maxing out the limits of the full self-driving computer that Tesla is using in each of the vehicles right now. There are limitations with memory, with the chip, and even with that, full self-driving has improved by a tremendous amount just this year alone. And this is partially how. And This is starting to look a lot like Moore's law, these models increasing by 10 times every year, at least for the last few years. And this is a big part why Elon Musk is so concerned about AI as well, because when something is improving 10 times each year, you might have some very bad outcomes, unintended outcomes as well. Hopefully that does not happen, but yeah. Pause the video if you like to read the whole thing, but I'll just show you just a little bit of what this is. So if I just scroll down to Q&A here, can my anti-virus detect or block this attack? While possible in theory, this is unlikely in practice. Unlike usual malware, Meltdown and Spectre are hard to distinguish from regular benign applications. And remember, these models are growing by 10 times each year, logarithmically, not just doubling. It's 10xing every single year. So when I see something that is 10xing each year, the number of parameters in AI models, why would I not think that full self-driving, like, how can I explain that this would not be solved? I really don't understand how this could not be solved at this point in the future. I'm not saying this will be solved next year or a year after that, but I believe it will be this decade. It's very difficult to predict exactly when, because when something is improving at 10 times per year in terms of parameters, we are so bad at understanding exponentials. Even when there's a doubling, so Moore's law, for example, it's only a doubling, and it's not even that fast. And we have a difficulty understanding that already and projecting other things that come with that. For example, no one saw the internet really coming, or the iPhone coming. How come everyone feels that came out of nowhere almost, and then, you know, it comes out and you get used to it? But I think this is going to be the exact same thing, except it will sneak up on all of us even faster. Well, what do you think? Like, do you leave a comment below? Do you genuinely believe that full self-driving will not be solved in the next 10 years? Do you really believe this will not be solved in the next 10 years? Like, looking at how good it already is, it's not perfect, certainly not, but looking at how good it has gotten this year, just in the beginning of this year, I would pick a random video from Hallmark's catalog YouTube channel, and it would almost feel to me like advertising how bad Tesla's FSD beta is. Obviously beta, so that's obvious that it's not going to be good because it's beta. But now I click on a random video and I'm like, wow, every one of them is like I'm trying to find a bad one, and I can't really. It's difficult. Like, this is one of the worst ones, actually. And it's pretty good. Right? So if the answer is full self-driving will definitely be solved, then the only question remains is who will solve it first and who will benefit from that. Will the company that solved it first, will that company be the only one who will benefit from full self-driving, or will there be other companies also benefiting from it? Now, my take is that Tesla will that this technology is going to be winner takes most, but not all. For the simple reason that if Tesla solves full self-driving, let's say next year, how many cars are there in the world? A lot. How many cars does Tesla make a year compared to the total number of cars in a world? Almost nothing at this point. So how many years would it take for Tesla to take over the whole car market? A very long time. Like Tesla is not going to be making 100 million cars per year the moment we solve full self-driving. It's just not going to happen. If it's, let's say, only making 5 million or 10 million cars per year when they do that, it's going to take a long time to solve. So, but if Tesla licenses the technology to other companies, well, maybe that's a little bit of a different story. But I think there are going to be competitors, but I think very strongly that Tesla will take most of the market share. So what do you think? What are the chances of Tesla solving full self-driving? Let's say not even the next 10 years. Let's say next 20 years. Okay, next 20 years, what probability do you give of full self-driving to be solved? I put it as 99.999999999% that in the next 20 years, we will solve full self-driving. What is your prediction? My name is Matt Postis. These are 48 reasons why I only own Tesla stock in my stock portfolio. I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching.